Welcome to Deadly Broadcast, guys! Tonight, we are going to explore the mysterious abandoned mental hospital located outside the city. According to rumors, this was not just a simple hospital, but a place where various experiments were carried out on patients. Suddenly one night, for some unknown reason, it was as if all the patients were under the influence of an evil force and slaughtered all the guards. And since then, this cursed place has become a place no one visits, but we are here and get ready for the excitement, cause Deadly Broadcast is starting!
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Binami and this is Deadly Broadcast, a first-person horror streamer simulation developed by Apphic Games, and it's a work in progress, to say the least. The developers want to create a co-op experience you can play and stream with your friends online, but at the current moment the game is a single-player experience and it's not a very good experience, if I do say so myself. Which is a shame, because co-optional horror games they're not very frequent, at least to my knowledge, and a game where you and a couple of friends have to solve a problem under stressful conditions is a novel one. Unfortunately, Deadly Broadcast isn't that game. It's a very standard going to an abandoned mental hospital to record why patients got loose and killed everyone in it. Only this time, you're not dealing with a science experiment gone wrong. You're dealing with a satanic ritual. Live on Twitch! Does it affect the gameplay? No, not exactly. It's just a bunch of chatbots spamming you with messages. I'm guessing it's a point system for the multiplayer side of things, but at the moment it's just a useless feature. It would make for an interesting gameplay feature if the Twitch chat affected our character's performance. For example, a bodybuilder would get stronger or more durable if the certain threshold of followers is gained, or lost. And that's just the basic idea. We are playing as streamers, so it might be a good idea to implement our backgrounds into the gameplay itself. Because as it is, the 4 playable characters we can choose from are just empty husks. They have no personalities, no special abilities, and they are all equally capable. They run at the same speed, they take the same amount of damage, they dish out the same amount of damage, they can all shoot a gun effectively, and they can all carry the same amount of equipment with ease. If this was a cooperative shooter like Left 4 Dead, I could understand it to a certain degree because the characters are survivors and they have to do these things quite a lot in order to stay alive. But these are just teenagers. Well, I'm guessing they're teenagers by their character models, but my point is, these are regular people. They have different backgrounds. They didn't have to deal with life and death situations, so why are they so capable of doing all these things? Since this is a demo version, I'm guessing there will be some other gameplay features that I'm not aware of, and we'll probably see them when the game is released, but at the moment, this is a pet peeve of mine that's just keeping me up at night. But apart from combat, what else can you do in the game? Well, you can walk, you can run, you can crawl on the floor and lean from left to right, which indicates that there is a stealth system, but so far I had no reason to use it. I did try to crawl under a couple of beds and tables, but I just hit invisible walls, so that theory falls flat on its face. To be fair, there is a monster that will attack you if you get too close, but you can stare at each other across the hallway and it will do nothing unless you get too close, or attack it, but I wouldn't call it a stealth system. It's more of a respect my personal space and you'll be fine mechanic. And there is a crouch mechanic apparently, but whenever I try to crouch, nothing happens, so Apphic really has to fix this issue. Be that as it may, as long as you respect the monster's privacy, you can explore the area to your heart's content. You can pick up items and solve quote-unquote puzzles, but so far I only discovered one of them, and that solved itself more or less because it was the narrative point in the game. The biggest challenge was actually starting the said puzzle. Not because I couldn't find it or even understand how to start it up, it's simply because the controls didn't work. Well, they did work, but not as intended. Certain commands are hard-coded into the game, and if you try to change the button layout, it will either work or not. Or it will work partially and then it will give you the middle finger. And that can lead to a lot of frustration when you're trying to solve something or pick up something important. At that point, you can do one of two things. Either press buttons randomly and rediscover the default settings, or restart the game and hope for the best. The default controls should kick in after a second or two, but until you rediscover them, you're a crazy person with a camera. Thankfully, you're in a mental hospital, so somebody will show up and pick you up very soon. Well, that joke's not gonna be funny anytime soon, so let's move on to the map design. As you can probably, well, I doubt you can see a lot because it's bloody dark, but the map really does look like a mental hospital that's been through it's been through a murderous rampage, but it looks like a hospital. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, you can only access the garage, the canteen, and the main lobby. The remaining wards and offices are locked up until the game gets released, so I can't tell you anything about them until I see them. But if it's anything similar to these areas I did explore, I can tell you this. The maps are big enough to explore and small enough to create a feeling of claustrophobia. And that's a good thing if you're creating a horror game. You have enough space to avoid your enemies, but you cannot outrun them, or escape from them. You will always be chased by them. And this is where a stealth system would make a great addition to the game. If you can turn a corner and hide behind something while the monster is still chasing you, you would have a very suspenseful situation. Do you stay in cover and wait for the monster to pass, or do you take a chance and make a run for it? But that's not the case in this game. Not completely. The game is a mixture of both stealth and combat, and it doesn't do a good job in either category. The combat system is a pretty bare-bones affair. You either get hit or not. The same goes for the enemy. There is no blocking, parrying, heavy attacks, light attacks, feints, sidesteps, or anything like that. There is only one basic attack animation, and then you have to wait for your enemy to enter his animations, take a couple of steps back, wait for the attack to pass, come back in, and repeat the process. In theory. In practice, it's a whole nother affair. Sometimes your attacks will connect, sometimes they won't, and sometimes your enemies will hit you from across the room. And this wouldn't be an issue if the enemies had some indications that they are capable of shooting you from across the room. But these are just deformed humanoids, and the only attack animations they possess are basic claw swipes, so you can probably understand the confusion. One monster is capable of teleporting, but that's the monster that won't attack you unless it's provoked. And that monster is visually distinct from the rest of its contemporaries, so props to the designers for creating it. Sadly, that's the only positive thing I can say about this monster. The moment this guy is provoked, he will teleport onto you, and you'll be beaten up a bit and teleported down to the garage. You won't lose any health or items, you'll just have to backtrack a bit. That or the demo will abruptly end. I'm not sure if this is done by design or if there's a timer running in the background that will end the game abruptly. To check that, I started 2 separate playthroughs. One where I was AFK for more than an hour and nothing happened, and the second one was just me running around the hospital for 30 minutes. Since nothing happened, I assumed that the monster was supposed to start the timer. But after my first encounter, nothing happened for 45 minutes approximately. A few basic monsters showed up and I had to fight them off, but nothing happened. So I went and provoked the big guy again. A few seconds after that, the game was over. The following playthrough lasted a lot shorter, and it was over after the first encounter. The second ended 10 minutes after the second encounter, so I stopped looking for the answer and just continued playing the game. A good thing I did, because I wasn't even paying attention to the sound design. Which is a shame, because the sound effects in this game are pretty much spot on. They're audible, creepy, clear, and make the hairs on the back of your neck tingle, especially when the monsters show up. It's little touches like these that make horror games scary. The same goes for the music. It's minimalistic, but creepy enough to keep you on the edge of your seat. Mix this with Twitch streams' audio cues, and you'll have a pretty nerve-wracking situation. Although I have to admit, the sound mixing can go off the walls at certain locations. There's this corner in the garage where the storm is the most audible. It's almost like you're outside again. I'm not sure why, but I'm guessing there is some supernatural elements involved in this, or it's just a bug. But that's just a minor gripe on my end. The biggest issue I have here is the voice acting. There's little of it, and it's horrible. If you remember the introductory cinematic, yeah, that's the quality you can expect. There is little to no effort in it. It's just someone reading a text. There's no emotion or anything. Granted, I'm not a professional voice actor either, but even I put some effort when I do stuff like this. But despite all that, the audio effects themselves are great. But the lighting, that's a completely different story. It's almost non-existent. Even with a flashlight, you can barely see where you're going. Which can be a problem when players need to see where they're going and what they're doing. Not to mention that the visual presentation usually affects the player's emotions. So it's counterproductive if they cannot see anything. Okay, absence of certain senses can cause discomfort, but but it's a very fine line in video games. Players are human beings, and they need visual information in order to process and come up with solutions to certain problems. Audio prompts and cues can help us a lot, but our primary focus is usually the visual presentation. To be fair, the development team has some experience with mobile gaming, but the PC is a completely different beast. And they are sending patches frequently, so this issue could be resolved very quickly. Something similar could be said about the story and writing itself. This demo raises a couple of questions, and I sincerely hope that the official release will answer them. The how, when, and why did this happen are the most obvious questions. But the one question I want the answer for is, are these streamers on something? You would think that these streamers would have some state-of-the-art cameras with night vision or at the very least stronger flashlights, but no. They have some child flashlights attached to their belts and good hopes. Seriously, this is some kind of I'll climb the Mount Everest in my bathing suit type of logic. It almost feels like the characters in this game didn't even consider the idea properly. They just got together and said, let's do a co-op stream at an abandoned hospital. Why? Who cares? It's gonna be fun. Yes, for everyone who follows Darwin Awards, it will be funny. For you, not so much. And that's honestly how I perceive these characters. They didn't even consider the idea and possible repercussions of it. They just went with it. Okay, I can get the logic behind the dark and stormy night because it sets the mood for the stream itself, but going in there without any preparation, that's just stupid. And I know I'm digressing here, but I honestly want to know what type of logic would someone have to do something stupid like this? Oh wait, they're teenagers. That's pretty much self-explanatory. Inevitably, you will enter the building and summon a bunch of demons. And also get cursed in the process. But how exactly does the curse affect you, that's anyone's guess. The demo never explains it. If I were to hazard a guess, I'd say that the curse will attract the demons towards you and issue challenges for you to perform, and subsequently reward you with achievements and power-ups. You could argue that the challenges are presented to you from Twitch, but since the challenges are highlighted in red, I am inclined to believe that these are the result of the curse. But that's just mild speculation on my part. At the current moment, the curse is doing nothing. It's just affecting your appearance. And the same can be said about the Twitch stream. The chat messages are just there to explain why you're here. Nothing more. Which is a waste of good potential. Just think about it. The Twitch chat is actively reacting and adding donations and whatnot to your stream. And those donations and notifications are usually punctuated by a loud audio cue. That would add so much nuance to the gameplay. You cannot turn off the camera because your livelihood depends on it, and your livelihood depends on staying quiet. And at that point you have to ask yourself, am I willing to risk my own life in order to make money, or am I willing to stay alive and lose my followers? Honestly, it could make a very good social commentary at this point, but I doubt that developers were thinking of that. In any case, this is Deadly Broadcast. Is it a good game? No. Is it fun? Well, if you're intoxicated or just playing around with friends or just want to look for bugs in the gameplay, then yes, it can be pretty fun. But for me personally, no. There are too many issues that need to be fixed, and the multiplayer is nowhere to be seen. I can understand this to a certain degree since the multiplayer is the selling point of the game, but the demo itself doesn't show off any interesting gameplay mechanics, and it doesn't last long enough to pique your interest. So until the bugs are fixed and a basic form of multiplayer is introduced, I'm probably gonna skip this game when it comes out. Which is a shame, because there aren't many co-optional horror games out there. I mean, there is Dead by Daylight and similar experiences, but I'm referring to player versus environment types of games, where you and a couple of friends just go around and try to survive for as long as possible. Or just backstab each other for the fun of it. And that about sums it up. Thank you very much for watching, my name has been B-Tommy, and I'll see you next time.
This is my day. And you. Leave us alone.